Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gail Carson, that's Gayle, GailCarson13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Women in Business broadcast. And we're coming to you today with our guest all the way from London, England. And I'm going to tell you more about her in just a minute, but I want to make sure that I invite you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and YouTube for any new content that we put out. But my guest for today on Women in Business is Somi Arian. She is the author of Career Fear and How to Beat It. Get the perspective, mindset, and skills you need to future-proof your work life. So quite a time to come. So let's talk about who she is. Somi is a tech philosopher, an international speaker, an entrepreneur, an award-winning filmmaker, and LinkedIn top voice influencer. Her work focuses on the impact of technology on society at large, the business landscape, and the future of work. A sought-after transition architect, she's given talks and workshops to industry leaders from organizations such as the BBC, The Economist, Marie Claire, Amazon, HSBC, Morgan Stanley, Virgin Atlantic, and American Express. Her 2018 documentary, The Millennial Disruption, was nominated for a dozen International Film Festival Awards, winning the World Fest Houston Silver Remmy for Best Documentary Short Film, and this was in 2019, and Idlewild International Festival of Cinema's Best Directory Documentary, also in 2019. Wow, Somi, how are you today? Huh? I'm worn out reading your bio.
Thank you. I mean, all of that feels like such a distant memory now in comparison to everything else that I'm doing right now. It's, my life
and that's
is
only a year ago. Think about that. It's only a year ago.
So honestly, yeah, my life is so fast-paced.
This book, Career Fear, why did you write it? I mean, you say how to beat career fear, get the perspective, mindset, and skills you need to future-proof your work life. But we're going through a pandemic now. I know that London and England has come back on the we better watch our step phase of this. So
yes.
Now more than ever, people have got to think about their careers. So why did you decide to write the book?
Well, I was approached by Kogan Page to write the book in, it was towards the end of 2018 when I got contacted by them. And it took me the whole of 2019 to write it. And my career trajectory has been quite interesting. You know, I started out working in European embassies in Tehran, and worked for United Nations. Then I came to the UK to study. I studied political science and philosophy of science and technology, and then became a filmmaker. So I've done so many different things. And one of the latest things that I did before the book was that I was contacted by one of the MDs at Morgan Stanley at the time to help him create a mini drama series about the workplace behaviors, and he wanted to teach people emotional intelligence. So it was during the working on that project that I was discovered by Kogan Page, and of course that was following my documentary, which won several awards, and being the LinkedIn top voice in the UK and all that stuff. So they asked me, would you like to write this book? And I thought, for me, career, like what I don't call what I do career, I call it my calling. I always tell people you need to know whether you have a calling, a career, or a job. For me, it's a calling, and they were very interested in what I was doing, and I felt that okay, this was an opportunity maybe to share my experience and perspective with younger people, because I felt that when I was starting out, I had so much career fear, and I had so much anxiety about success, and especially nowadays with the Instagram generation, with all of the pressures that you have, it feels like the likes of Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine and all of these things, they're kind of celebrating every day people that are younger and younger and breaking into the industry. And it feels like, working with a lot of young people that I hired in my business, it felt like, everybody was feeling so much pressure, and I was feeling the pressure too, but they were, the younger people they were feeling a lot more pressure. It was to a point that I remember when I went to see Gary Vaynerchuk for my documentary, I did an interview with him. We went all the way to New York, and I was with my very young crew members, and they were sitting there, like thinking, oh, we haven't achieved anything. Look at these people, look at Gary, and I'm like, you guys, you really need to sort of get perspective on how to think about your career. So I wanted to share that concept of what it means to be worried about your career, and how I overcame that and found peace. And now, I'm more successful than ever, and I'm doing some really big projects right now. But if I had continued with the anxiety that I had towards my career, I feel like I wouldn't have been here now, because that anxiety actually holds you back. And the other thing was that I could really see that with automation, with artificial intelligence, machine learning, a lot of jobs were disappearing. So, for example, in our own industry as a filmmaker, increasingly I'm hiring less and less skilled people, and then very quickly I'm able to train them, because the cameras have so many capabilities that they didn't have before. So really all I need, but I say all I need is actually the hardest bit. What I need is people who can tell a story, people who can really, it's that human side that is the hardest kind of a part of the job. It's no longer just your ability to make sure that a picture is in focus, because or like the color balance or everything. I mean, those things are still important, but increasingly it's being automated. So I felt like all of these people I see around me in so many different jobs, they are going to lose their jobs unless they develop the human skills, which is emotional intelligence, and mindfulness and critical thinking, contextual creativity. These 4 skills are what people really need to future-proof their career. Well, I wouldn't say future-proof, future robust is probably a better term that Nassim Taleb uses. But that was the reason why I decided to spend the whole year 2019. And at that time, I didn't know that there was going to be a pandemic. And it was when my book was in the process of being published that the pandemic happened. And it felt like everything that I said in the book, which was, I was trying to warn people that over the next 5 to 10 years, for 5 to 15 years, these things are going to happen. Now everything is accelerated, and people have less time than ever to develop those skills.
Well, this is true. And one of the things that I have been asked to speak about lately, and I'm not a futurist, but it's a future, because people think things are going to go back the way they were, and they're never going back to the way they were. No. And there's there's not even a new normal. There's just new. I say there's just new. And so it's really important to pay attention to some of the things that you've been talking about, because artificial intelligence is going to come on really, really strong, and it has already affected many of the areas that you work in, and certainly, many others. But it's also, you mentioned Gary Vee, and, one of the things he talks about is all the failures he had, all the failures before he was successful. So the whole point of all of this is just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. But you are, and I have to ask you this because I have no idea what it means. You are a tech philosopher. What is that?
Yes. So I studied when I was this was a term that I had to sort of use. I was trying to explain to people what it is that I do. Okay. So when I was making the documentary, the documentary is called The Millennial Disruption, and it was about how technology has changed the behavior, the consumer behavior of millennials. And I'm somebody who looks at how technology changes society and what it means for humanity at large, but also what it means in the context of the universe, what it means in the context of consciousness, So looking at really, really big picture and big ideas around this for example, when I'm thinking about when people ask me, like, how do you manage to gain and to retain perspective? When you're so close to what you're doing, how do you manage to retain perspective? And I always say what I do is I kind of zoom out to all the way to the Big Bang. And, in my book, in chapter 6 of the book, I talk about the inner circles where, there's you and then there's the city, the country, the universe, all of that. So basically, the idea of obviously philosophy, everybody knows, right? Philosophy is about understanding life. In a way, I always say that philosophy asks the question of why life is what it is. Science tries to answer the how question. So these two go hand in hand. And over the past centuries, especially since the time of Aristotle, our philosophy has become, over the past millennia, has become increasingly logical. So because I always explain, like, there are two sides to humanity. In Eastern philosophy we have yin and yang, right? So there are two sides to humanity, to human capacity. There's one side of it is the logical, and the other side of it is the emotional. Another way of putting it is like the Apollonian and the Dionysian, right? And I feel like our society has become increasingly too much Apollonian and not enough Dionysian. And for me, the Dionysian is a little bit more feminine, and maybe the Apollonian is a bit more masculine. And all of these things have created an imbalance in our society. So the job of a tech philosopher is to try and make sure, because with technology, with modern technology, we are now in a position where we are going to be amplifying everything that we've done over the past millennia, over the past few centuries, that, with mechanization, with everything that we've done with the technologies that we have developed, we are essentially amplifying that Apollonian side, that logical side, that masculine side. So I think it's time to kind of take a step back and look at, okay, as we go into this age of artificial intelligence, and as we are in a position where our machines, our computers are mimicking our emotionality. It's like you could say that they're not conscious yet, or they're not, they don't understand emotionality, but they do a very good job of mimicking it. And, sometimes when I'm going to bed, I say, hey, Siri, set my alarm for so and so. And then the way that Siri talks to me, I sometimes feel like saying, hey, thank you, Siri. And then I remember, Siri doesn't really understand the thank you bit, but so increasingly we are, I actually feel, towards my robot vacuum cleaner, sometimes I anthropomorphize. So I think increasingly we are going to see that. So it's really important that we build that that Dionysian aspect, that emotional aspect. You could call it like another dimension of or another dimension of our capacities. We build that into the machines that we are developing. Otherwise, we are going to lose, and we are going to increasingly lose that balance. So a tech philosopher really, I think in this day and age, everybody, in whatever you do, you're a tech that. if you're a doctor, you're a tech doctor, because in a way, technology is part of all of our work. And likewise, I think you cannot be a philosopher or a psychologist, a psychiatrist, anything, a teacher, without bearing in mind the influence of technology. So there's that part. And then, of course, I'm actively really interested in machine learning and artificial intelligence. I'm teaching myself. I think it's really important. I just don't think I don't think you can be any kind of philosopher these days without that embracing that technology.
But the thing is, Somi, that you talked about work culture, you talked about transferring work into fulfillment, you talked about acknowledging all these changes that are coming. But what happens? I mean, this is a women in business show. What happens if I'm a woman in a business where my CEO does not adapt or adopt to these things? Or what if I'm a woman who wants to start her own business, but my technology is not what it should be? How do I handle that?
Well, I've started a think tank for women in business and technology, which is part of a bigger platform that I'm building, which is called Fem Talent, and we've not launched it yet, but it's sort of done a very soft launch today, like literally an hour ago, in the sense of not fully, but in the sense of people can now register to join the next conference. So we had our first conference last month, and it was fascinating because we had 14 panelists, 14 including myself, and each person had about 3 minutes talking about different issues that hold women back. And I've been thinking a lot about what is it that holds women back? Why is it that when I look at the top 100 philosophers, top 100 politicians, top 100 business people, it's all men. Like 99% is men. So what is it that holding women back? So this has always been a big question for me, especially as I come from a oppressive background in Middle East and all that. So I've brought it down to three things. Well, actually four things, but one of them, so I'll explain. So these three things is, one is biological. So I call it nature, nurture, and the self. So one is biological, one is environmental, and of course the environmental one has got several subcategories. And then one is the self, how the self interacts with their biology and environment. And then there is a fourth element which kind of goes between these three and connects them, and that's data. You can also call it information or knowledge. Now, the thing about data is you can think of it as like that bee that or like an insect that goes from one flower to another and helps the pollination, right? That process of pollination, you can think about it as like gathering information, gathering data and knowledge. So the first step for women in solving this problem, so you see, part of it comes down to solving this problem through our governments and organizations, but a huge part of it also comes down to ourselves. So the first step is to try and sort out this problem of data. Now, basically, if you go back to the times of our ancestors, when you look at the hunter-gatherer societies, the women were staying at home, right? They were staying in the base. Okay, they would do like the gathering of some fruit or nuts or whatever around their habitat, and then the men would go out into the wild and they had to hunt, right? And through that hunting and through that time that they spent out together, they gained knowledge, they gained, they had to create tools and technology, and they were not sharing that knowledge with women because women were staying back, right? They were in the base. So over time, there became a kind of divide between men and women in terms of how we share data and knowledge, both about women and to women. Okay, so it's not just sharing. For example, it's not just about the husband doesn't teach his wife, how to build a tool, but it's also that the husband increasingly becomes, less and less aware of the problems or the challenges maybe that the woman is having. So this has now, over time, this has created, it has been gone into our culture, it has gone into our corporations, legal systems. On every level, we see this data gap, is a gap of data both to women and about women. So we need to sort this out. We need to solve this problem. And we can do this both on an individual level and on a societal level. So what you're doing with your podcast, you're trying to fill that data gap to a great degree. So everybody has to find a way that they can contribute to fixing this problem from their own perspective, in their own surrounding. So I come from a very oppressive background, so I thought, okay, what can I do? I came to the West, I studied here, and now I'm doing what I'm doing. So I really think the first thing is by educating themselves, educating yourself. And I know that it's not easy for women because, with having children, so that's why I say about the biology and the environment side of things. So it is more challenging. That's the truth.
Well, it's interesting. I was very lucky because I was brought up by a woman who said, both to my sister and I, when you finish college, you've got to earn your living and don't depend on any man for anything. And I was married to a great guy. I mean, we married for 45 years before he passed away. And he let me manage the money, and he let me, he took care, believe it or not, he took care of most of the household issues. And I was the one out there working and well, I mean, he worked too, but I mean, I really had an ongoing business when we got married. So I was very fortunate that I was married to that guy, and I could really do whatever I really needed to do. So I was lucky with that. But let me ask you this. We have about 5 minutes left, Somi.
Sure.
How can people get in touch with you if they're interested in the things that you're doing, maybe even being part of your think tank? I don't know if they have to be in London to do that.
No.
It's
virtual. It's anywhere.
And, where they can get your book and how they can reach you. And I don't know if you have a free gift that you'd like to offer anybody, but whatever you'd like to tell our people, why don't you do that now?
I have a ton of content, and I always say, that's my gift to people because I create so much, free content. I haven't got anything else at the moment, but there is, and the think tank is all free. You can join. It's a conference, and so they can find me on somiarian.com, on LinkedIn, and Twitter, and also the website. The platform I'm building for women in business and technology is called FemTalent. That is FEM talent.com, femtalent.com. And the next conference is on 28th. So,
So her website, in case you want to know how to spell it, is Somi, SOMI, Arian, ARIAN.com. So that's where you can go to find all this information. I want to remind you again to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and YouTube for any new content. If any of you are over the age of 50 and would like to join my free Facebook group, it's SOB Virtual Club, and you can find it on Facebook. And if you want to contact me, I'm at spunkyoldbroad.com. There's all of my information there and my contact form. You can fill that out and I'll get to you the same day you send it to me. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of where we are. We have just 2 minutes left, Somi. Anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to bring up to our audience?
I just really want everybody to invest in themselves. Like we really need to be a bit selfish here, and because nobody else is going to look after us. So just invest in yourself, teach yourself everything you can, learn. Never stop learning.
Boy, right on there. She is talking my language, folks. Definitely always learning. Here I am. I have been in business for 60 years, and I still take webinars. I still take courses. I still read books. I still have mentors. It's important. It's important that you are always learning, because if you don't learn, you're really vegetating. You're not increasing who you are. And I know some of you will say, well, gosh, I think, I've been through a lot and so forth. But, your business, it's just like the other day when Walmart came out in the same distribution type of thing as Amazon has. Now, they don't have everything Amazon has, but I'm sure Amazon didn't really think about Walmart, going into their territory. And it's going to take some time for them to gain it. But you do not know what's hanging around the corner for you tomorrow, because life is so changing so fast now, and it's so unpredictable, and we're not just local anymore. We are global. This podcast goes globally. This radio show goes globally. Somi is in London, England, as we interview her right now. So these are things you need to think about, and these are things you need to prepare for. And so I just want to put that little bee in your bonnet. So Somi, thank you so much for being with us today. Good luck on all your projects and your book.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see a lot more of you in the coming future.
Hopefully. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Hi, this is Dr. Gail, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gailcarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.